Good day. It's a cloudy, damp day here in the Lowveld. So I'm a few minutes late. I had an emergency at my gate. The thing that I want to talk about today, it's not actually a thing, it's a few things. Life has gone crazy, and we are all on that roller coaster. And if I look at the things that's happening in Europe, I can only shake my head. It's amazing that a handful of unelected officials set a ball in motion that is going to flatten the European economy. And I read an article last night, a long article in which the guy, and that was published in February this year, in which he explained in elaborate terms why the US would want to see the German industry crash. Because the German industry is major competition for America. And I find that absolutely disturbing. But what I cannot understand is that the Europeans surrendered their self-determination, and they surrendered their independence. If you look at those European countries that's part of the EU today, they are nothing more than elaborate local blocks, if I can call it like that, because the leadership of those countries has got very little authority. The EC in Brussels overrules them easily and bullies them into directions where they don't want to go. And eventually they just go. You see them making all sorts of statements prior to the incident, and then the next you see the declaration or whatever has been approved and it's gone through. We saw that with the Russian sanctions. We see that with this visa shit. Everything. In the end, Ursula von der Crazy and her cabal in Brussels gets her way. And they implement these things that are obviously destroying the European economy. And it's going to destroy private lives too. And they've got all sorts of issues or statements that they make in which they are pushing the hatred towards Russia unbelievably, and to their own detriment. What is the main plan? But I think we have to accept that the WEF has got them tight by the balls, and the well-published reset is in operation. I am just glad that more than 80% of the world's population is not playing that fucking stupid game, because Europe is being they're pushing it back into the Stone Age. For fuck's sakes, I saw a lot of articles yesterday about firewood. In 2022, firewood is a major issue in Europe. How the fuck did that happen? I can't understand it. And we must keep an eye on Serbia, because NATO is fueling the fires in Kosovo. But they've got a major fucking problem now. The Russians came out bluntly and said, we will support Serbia. And NATO is not going to have that free pass to bomb that place into pieces again without resistance. And I see they're trying to stir shit there in Georgia. And now the Georgian authorities had said, listen, we will run, we're going to put it out to the voters. They must make a decision whether we join this war or not. And I am not so sure if the voters is going to vote for that shit. You just look at what's happening in Moldova. And so people are getting gutful for this. It is out of hand. And some forces, which the WEF is the main players, are pushing for a war, a major war. And for me, I'm it's no, I don't make, try and bullshit people. I support the Russians in this Ukraine fuck up. And for us, the Kharkiv incidents of the past week was something that disturbed us. And the biggest problem is the vast amount of bullshit that is being published by the Kiev regime. And then making claims that is not true. But the media is pumping it. If you look at the media, it would seem like Ukraine demolished the Russians there, which is total bullshit. We know it. The Russians, there was very few Russian soldiers in that area. But it is a serious PR blow for the Russians, that I will agree. And if you read and you're willing to really dig, you will see that they are slowly but surely sorting those Ukrainian soldiers out there. But what is most, I would almost say disturbing, is that there are so many videos on the pro-Ukrainian sites. And the soldiers that are posting it and putting up selfies, they're not Ukrainians. They're Americans, British. The reality is today, we have to just accept it, that NATO is now physically involved in the fighting. Yes, it's not official, but they're there. And you see reports from citizens of those villages and settlements and places that say, the soldiers that are here, they are speaking English. And that's a fuck up, boys. I was quite surprised when I saw the Russians attack the civilian infrastructure. I think it was on Sunday night. But in 2.5 hours, they took more than 50% of Ukraine's electricity supply offline. Now, I think that was just maybe a warning shot. I don't think the Russians planned on large-scale civilian infrastructure destruction and so forth. And I look at some of the messages I get. It looks like this, what do you want to call it, stunt of the Ukrainians in Kharkiv total loss is around about 10,000 men so far, and a lot of equipment. And then there's bullshit stories of the Russians that left equipment behind and tanks behind and heavy armor behind and cut like that. But that's the media. In the meantime, the Russians are doing what they have to do, and they're fighting that thing there. And then I saw this message last night. The Kiev Gestapo brown shirt military conducted a raid on 427 nightclubs and apparently handed in as many as 119 summonses. The remaining several thousand visitors of military age were not subject to conscription due to connections and thick wallets. And that is very fucking disturbing. They are rounding up the people in the streets now to go and fight. And then there was on that post, there was a lot of responses. And I'm going to read some of them. This guy says, searching for fresh meat. And then this, of course, they need more cannon fodder. And then this guy, like who wants to go to the slaughterhouse because that is what is in this SMO. And then this ook says, yeah, the party is over for someone. And then this ook says, imagine going for clubbing in Kiev to being tossed into the meat grinder in Kherson or Donbass. Don't feel sorry for them at all. And this ook just said, cannon fodder. And then this guy say, what a life. Thanks to Comrade Putin and Lavrov for not bombing that city to the ground. Disco girls party all the time. Drinking, not a war. Well, that is what's going on there. And I'm still confused. What exactly is the West trying to hide in Ukraine? We know that that is a snake pit, but I cannot understand that the Western taxpayers doesn't stand up and say, stop this. And that's the story. I am quite disturbed by the total commitment with which the West is pursuing that thing. But I read a few articles last night, and there are a few that I saw that the guys are of the opinion that NATO and the US cannot afford to lose this war in Ukraine. It will be a horrific blow for them. And I saw on that, I think Judge Napolitano's feed last night, he had a discussion with a American that is working in the Ukraine, training Ukrainian soldiers. Yeah, and I listened to that guy talking. I listen to him and I read the stuff on Telegram. It is as if they're talking about two different worlds. Because according to that American, the Ukrainians are going to push the Russians out of the Donbass, out of Mariupol, out of Crimea. It's just a matter of time. And I'm trying to imagine what the fuck is he talking about? Because if you look at the maps, the Russians have taken a large part of Ukraine. But that's where we are. And then we get to South Africa. Hy slukdamme by Jagersfontein wat gebreek het, hy slukdam. Kyk, ek het groot geword in 'n mynershuis. My pa was 'n myner en later was hy 'n mynbestuurder. En soos Forrest Gump famously in sy movie gesê het, shit happens. En dit lyk vir my daai slukdam wat gebreek het, was nou maar een van daai gevalle van shit happened. Maar as ek so luister na wat die verskillende groepe nou kwyt raak oor dit, die fok weet, waar is logika? Waar is common sense? Een feit is, van daai myn weg daar, en Jagersfontein en Forest Smith is moer toe. Hulle is al reeds basically amper moer toe soos dit is. En hierdie was nou 'n tragiese ongeluk. Dit was nou iets wat gebeur het. Nou is dit belangrik dat, okay, hoe gaan dit reggemaak word? En hoe gaan dit skoongemaak word? Ek is fucking bly, ek is nie deel van daai skoonmaakteam nie, boys. Dis 'n moerse gemors om skoon te maak daai. But I'm not going to participate in the shit stories about Jagersfontein. Coming from a mining background, I know things can go wrong in a split second on a mine. Doesn't mind how many precautions are taken and how many safety rules are followed. Accidents happen. The mining environment is a serious environment and it is a hazardous environment. And people must understand things can go wrong. But let's see where it's going to end. It was interesting for me to see how Montasha sidestepped and dodged the bullet there. I just smiled. That's what they do. Duck and dive. Always duck and dive. And then there was on WhatsApp and so a thing running yesterday, a message warning people about helicopters spraying some fucking clouds over cities and things like that. Yes, as I look at it, and I didn't even forward the thing because I wasn't sure. What is this? It sounds like a fairy tale. But many guys shared it. My question is, South Africa is not that big. Has anybody traced any of those pilots doing the spraying? I don't know. I haven't seen anything about it. If you guys have seen, tell me in the comments. But I wouldn't be surprised. And then this pestilence shit we're seeing, and I'm thinking, it was just quietly, all that statistics that was hammered every night on the news and so just disappear. And why? What is in Joburg in the Northwest? Is that where they're spraying? Phew. This is okay. Well, I cannot understand that we see these things and why doesn't anybody track those pilots down? There's not that many places where they can operate from. But I also saw an interesting article that said that South Africa's inflation rate is lower than most of our trading partners. That was interesting. I am just so sorry that at this stage of the game, we do not have bright, brilliant minds in government that can manage the country in this time, because there is now a lot of opportunities, but you need somebody with insight and intelligence to make sure that we get the best out of those opportunities. And another thing that I am wondering if there are groups that are working on it, and this is this fuel price shit. It's no longer secret. Russia is giving big discounts to so-called friendly nations on oil. And we're not seeing those discounts in the petrol price. So who the fuck is stealing that discount? That's the question we should ask ourselves. Who is stealing that discount? That's a big thing. And I'm busy working on a Skidmark where I'm going to talk about leadership and so. And I saw last night a very disturbing image about some of the prominent players in the Biden shithouse. Fuck. A lot of weirdos, gender confused. I cannot understand how those people are in leadership of America. But I don't know what is going to happen in America. There is a large part of the population that are beginning to become agitated. And I don't know where that is going to end. Yeah, well, I'm not a airplane guy, but I'm quite sure if someone just puts in a little bit of effort, they will find the places from where these guys is operating. Yes, I'm aware of the cloud seeding. I mean, it was done here in the Lowveld since the 70s, and they did it for hail prevention, and it was quite successful. But there was also a lot of people that complained about it because it apparently changed the rainfall pattern. And if that seeding is done excessively, it can create serious flood situations. And there are rumors that many of the floods in India and China is the results from this weather management programs. And in Australia, I also read that in Australia it's also an issue. But there are people that are saying and claiming that they are spraying pestilence on us with the airplanes now. Now, that is a serious claim to make. And if that is true, we're actually fucked. What can I do? I sit here on my farm, happily doing a life, and the airplane flies past and pisses that shit out there or high up in the sky. And by late afternoon, when I go for a walk, I walk into it. So I don't know. I don't know. I want to say thank you to all of you that participated. And thank you for the likes. And you must have a great day. I have got some serious issues now here outside that I have to go and resolve. It started just before I had to go live. And unfortunately, the show was already published. So I had to do it. Have a great day. And thank you very much for your support.